Hey everybody, Shuko here for part 3 of the Guild Guide. And I just wanted to say to everybody, thank you so much for coming this far along. I can't believe everybody's been watching this and enjoying it and taking it in. I wasn't sure if it was going to be useful for everybody, but I thought it would be worth giving it a try. But on that note, let's continue. For part 3, we're going to be talking about things that are event only or things you need groups for. And what that means is some things rotate in as bonuses, and those usually go from like the 12th of the month to the end of the month. And then there's a free week with no event bonuses, and then a new set of bonuses kick in, and these will repeat from time to time. For instance, in September of 2022, the bonuses are macrocosmic orbs and a whole bunch of other things. So we're going to talk about ways to make Gil with the events and then with group things, and pretty much try to cover everything else that I know about making Gil in the game. So this should be the conclusion of the Gil Guide. But let's switch over to Shuko so that we can wind up going into the first thing I'd like to talk about, the orb bonus events. Now there's two flavors of it. First off, you have the macrocosmic orb bonus, which is one type of bonus. And then there's also the other orbs, which I like to use in particular, the Zelos Orb, but the Bia Orb also does get a bonus as well. So let's switch over to Shuko and we can talk about some of those things. So I'm in Port Juno. The fastest way to get here is to take the entrance crystal and then just to run west by Shimo and Shami. Now, people who have been doing the missions know probably a few extra things about these guys, but for now, what they've done for years is they wind up doing all of the seals and all of the crest management. So what you pretty much would do is you wind up going to make a trade. Wrong NPC. Shami. And with Shami, you would wind up going to exchange Shaker Kindred crests and get a macrocosmic orb, which costs 20 crests. Now you can get these with login points. They also drop off of monsters. And you can even do exchanges with these guys to change others into other forms. So the next one I'm going to go to is High Kindred crests and get a Zelos Orb. So now I have a macrocosmic and a Zelos Orb. Let's get into what to do next. For the Zelos Orb, what we do is a Chains of Promathia zone. There's a couple zones you can take this, but the one that I like best is in Chains of Promathia. Oh, I passed it. Oligan Range, Warp 2. And at Oligan Range Warp 2, there's an entry point for the Zelos Orb. Just run forward a little bit to enter the area. And then from there, you gotta run a lot bit forward for some places, considering. Wind Pillar, trade, Zelos Orb, Jurassic Park. Now there's a couple of these that you can do in different zones, and the reason I particularly like this one is because it has 6 monsters, and each monster has a bonus to drop additional things. Now, I would suggest probably bringing a Blue Mage in here, or a Thief, but I like Dancer, so we're going to do it with Dancer. Uh-oh. One's left alive. Usually want to try to kill all these guys at the same time. Once they're all dead, a chest will appear. And there it is. Open that and get kicked out. And we're going to talk about all the junk you get from this too, because that is part of this. Kicks you out. Takes you pretty close to the crystal. Now, when we pull up my log, we'll see that I got seed pouch, eye seals. Those wind up letting you skip Empyrean upgrades. Burst, you would sell to a vendor. Raise 3 depending on your server, sell to a vendor. Dragon meat's good to auction house or craft with. Red eyes is a full lock style. Eye seal, same thing I said before. Yeah, for this time it seems like it dropped a lot of spells and dragon meat. Rune Day log, dragon meat, and Holy 2. Yep, demon horns. Lots of stuff to auction house or to sometimes even just directly vendor. So, yeah, that would be what you would do with the Zelos Orb. And there's a couple other places that you can hit. Now, sometimes, depending on which ones you use these at, there'll be a chance to get other things like HMP, Alexandrite bags, etc. So choose your spot specifically. I particularly like this spot because of the amount of mobs and the bonuses that you get for it. So let's just call that a brief covering of the things involved with the Zelos and the Bio Orbs. There's a lot more BC&Ms that you can enter with those and farm for items. But the other orb that you can use is the Macrocosmic Orb. So let's cover that a little bit now and switch over to Shuko. So I'm in a zone you might recognize from the last video where I did my Mimic battle. And you would take the same method to get here, but there's many zones just like the other orbs that you can use. But in specific, I like this zone because it drops some things that I consider to be more valuable vendor trash. So you trade the orb, Divine Punishers. The difficulty you would probably want to set based upon what you think you could handle. In my case, I'm gonna try very difficult because I'm a little bit, I'm a little bit more experienced, so I think I can handle it. At least I hope so. But even if you die, if you kill a couple people, you'll still get those drops from them during the bonus time. On that note, let's get some trust out, huh? I'm going to use my trust add-on. I like Slivy, or Salvi, depending on how you pronounce it. Joachim. Montbro, which is a little bit hard to get. It takes some time to earn the Amon deeds for that. Gatada the Corsair, seasonal one that comes a couple times a year. And Cornelia is the seasonal one that's out right now. But if you don't have Cornelia, Koromor is another good one too, or Arc Taru. Could sleep these guys. So I'm pretty much just going to pop Sentinel and run in there and Leroy this. Hi, Ghost Fist. Uh-oh, he's got 100 Fist out. Let's try to slow that down, huh? Fan Dance. One down. Oh, the ninja. No, let's save the ninja for last in case this doesn't go well. No, not the haze. I want the raucous. Oh, this guy. There we go. Yeah, you seem good. Except for the fact you stunned me. I don't appreciate that. Okay. Yeah, these birds, they can stun. Alright, Mr. Thunderblade, time to go down. Oh, you got your stun off again. Lucky you. Alright, Mr. Raucous, I think you're next. That's a long-lasting stun that time. Hi, Mr. Raucous. That's Mr. Blizzard's turn. I saved the haze for last because ninjas, man, they can blow up on you and just kill you. And it's no fun. Oh, there's Benediction. Alright, Mr. Hayes, can I take you out before you take me out? That is the question. Big hit time. Oof. There we go. I want to save my big hit for him so he couldn't blow up in my face. Uh-oh, it looks like my inventory is already full. We'll get rid of the objuration. I already know I don't want that. Mahogany log isn't super valuable. What else can I drop? Oh, the orbs. Alright. Let's open the chest. Then you get some more prizes too. So a lot of this is stuff you would want to vendor. Some of this is stuff that you would want to wind up selling in the auction house. And some of it's stuff you'd store with NPCs, etc. And if you haven't upgraded all your JSEs, the Rem's Tails are super useful. That's something you would get from here even without a bonus. So this is two of the ways, and these are separate events. So the macrocosmic orb is one thing you would see, And then the bonus you would see from the other orbs is another one. Both do happen to be up through the September bonus month, but that's not always the case. So these are ways to make money during events. So let's move on to the next thing. So in Ottergon, when you wind up finding all the different staging points, you wind up being able to become a mercenary. And once you've done that, you're able to start an assault. And one of the assaults is called Nizul Isle, and it has a lot of money-making potential. So let's switch over to Shuko and I can show you some of that. So in last week's preview, we talked about Neo Nizul Isle, or as it's known in the game, Nizul Isle Investigation. It's level 99 base content. And honestly, there's really nothing that you can get from it unless the event bonus is up that really is worthwhile. You can get, a little bit of tokens, and you can get a little bit of Alexandrite, but there's better ways to farm them. However, when the bonus is up, you're able to essentially get a bunch of lottery-based +1 items, and you can appraise them, and they can wind up being all types of items ranging from the O-Sash at the top all the way back to total trash. And anything in between. I've seen the Flume Belt +1 is probably the most valuable item I've seen recently, which is about 4 million on this server. But I'm going to show a video, and we're going to put text notations through it. And essentially what I try to do is I call it up to floor 20 rush. And you can get there anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. It's usually something I try to do when I only have a little bit of time to play. But you can be in Nizul Isle for the full half hour. So as you get more comfortable, you can actually try to get all the way up to floor 100. And I've seen a couple people pull it off solo. Myself, I can't really seem to get past floor 80 when I'm by myself. But depending on practice, I imagine that you could get through these very quickly. And if you play Blue Mage, you can fly through this even faster. But let's move over to that video, and I'm going to add those notes. So for this next one that we want to talk about, we're going to be talking about Void Watch. And this does have some legwork involved in it. But if you've gotten to the point where you can do Empyrean weapon skill unlocks like Rudra Storm, you can start to get into the area where the greater rewards are. So there's a bunch of notorious monsters you got to take out. and you can only get, so many charges of these per day, or you can trade other things. But I'm going to take us into Shuko at Boomerimo Peninsula, and we're going to talk about one of the mobs that you can fight for Rift Cinder, Rift Dross, and Heavy Metal Plates. Items I've showed you in the last video, their value. But when this bonus is up, they have a higher chance of dropping these. So I already pulled out my trusts, and I already came out in front of it. It's just a little bit west of Mara. This is one of the harder ones. A lot of people like to take the one out in Sky and stuff, but this one happens to drop a really rare dagger I've been after. So we're going to fight this one. When the bonus is up, essentially all of the lights are at max, making it so they have a higher chance of dropping their rare drops. But honestly, it's very rare anyway. Get myself all charged up. Hit it with a little bit of Treasure Hunter just in case. Big hit time. So yeah, a little bit tougher than some, as I survive with one trust left and one trust that can't be killed. Crystal Petrifact, Ramhorn, Translucent Rock, Petrified Log. So nothing of value this time, but you can see that the lights are charged percentages are high, and the white being at 100% is what you're looking for the rare drops. So this is a way that you can make a lot of gil if you're patient, and you find a mob that you can kill quickly with very little headache. So we've learned a few things so far, but let's talk about one of the more event-focused items. For this one, we have to go to the Shadow Rain area in the past. Now, we're going to switch over to Shuko, and for her character, I'm in Bastock for the past, so we're going to use that for the demonstration. But you can also do this in Windurst and Sandy in the past as well. And it's situational. You need to have the event up, the campaign Fiesta, which is a monthly event that sometimes occurs. And on top of it, too, your server needs to have some conditions met as well. But if both of those things are met, you're able to make a lot of money in this event. So let's talk about campaign Fiesta real quick. Now, I'm in Bastock, and I'm in front of Hieronymus, I believe is how you pronounce that name. Yeah. And he would be the one that you would use campaign ops for. You would go sign me up. You get 7 credits that you could burn through, and you'd be looking through offensive operations. Now, it's not on the list here for my server. I'm not going to be able to demonstrate it exactly to you, and I can explain why and what to look for. So you go to region info from menu and go down to campaign here. And the missions at campaign Fiesta gets a bonus for are essentially related to when the heroes have successfully taken over one of the Beastmen strongholds. And then you can wind up going over there and do a BCNM fight. And it gives you some really good bonuses, which I'll put up on the screen. Now, that being said, you see on this portion of the map is the Dark Kindred. So if any of the heroes take over this area, you would be able to go to campaign operation against the Shadow Lord. If Bastok happens to take over the Kradov Shield Warrior area, the Beado, they would be able to go in on a campaign operation there. Same thing with Sandy and the Orcish hosts, and Windy and the Gudo. Now, usually this takes like a Linkshell cooperating at this point because people don't actively play in these realms anymore. But if you wind up unlocking it for a week, you're able to interact with these and use all your campaign ops to go in there and get lots of bonus drops. So that's a way you can make stupid amounts of money. I mean, even the 10,000 piece drops from this from Dynamis. So, yeah. If I had to tell you guys which nation to try the most and has, in my opinion, the best drops, I'd actually say Windurst. Well, it's a matter of opinion. The Bastok one does seem to do Alexandrite. Heavy metal plates, I think, come from the Sandy one. And Windurst tends to get HP bailed. So, I mean, it's all perspective. And honestly, sometimes it seems pretty random. But bonus drops here come 5 extra drops per BCNM, and they can be very, very valuable. It's a low chance, but it's almost like a halfway completed relic. So this is how you would make money with the campaign Fiesta. Something to look for after every weekly rotation. Okay, so for this next one, what we're going to be talking about does involve mission completions. And you need to finish the entire Rhapsodies of Vana'diel expansion to have access to this. Near the end of it, you get access to a zone called Resenjima, and when you complete it, you get a key item that lets you travel to Warp 10 in that zone. And at Warp 10 is pretty much the prep area for Omen. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire event and bore you guys with all that, but we're going to go through the beginning of it. I've switched to Thief, which is a really good choice, but if you don't have a Thief to bring through here, that's fine too. If you have any Treasure Hunter gear, though, that'll help a lot. So let's switch to Shuka. So you talk to this goblin here, which is past that warp, and you get a canteen. The first canteen starts the timers, and then they can hold on to 3. So you could essentially do this 4 times in a day if you let it charge up. And select to set up. And just wait your turn. Now, what I'm going to wind up doing is I'm just trying to kill things for an item. There's an item in here that is worth a considerable amount of money, and stacks especially. And we will be just going to try to get that. But let's get the same set that I was showing you guys before. My Dancer looks very similar to my Thief in lock style. Now, like I said, we're not going to do a whole Omen tutorial here. But what you would do if you're powerful enough to keep going is you would use the small light. You want to fight as many little mobs as you can because each of them have a chance to drop money. Or the money item in this case. Try to stay close to the trees so you don't pick up too many mobs. Oh, he likes my buddy Montbro. So for this one, I'm going to use Bully. DPS got me killed. There we go. That's one of the items we need. Swart Astral Detarius. I'm sure I butchered the name, but those sell for millions in a stack. So you just pretty much try to stay at the edge. Once you're very powerful and you have really strong sets to stay defensive, you can actually pick them all up and just alien edge them all down. Try to keep a treasure hunter set on periodically to tag them. I try to aim myself at the monsters, so that way when I kill the one, I'll switch to the next one. It's all based upon your camera angle, actually. Now, it may take you a lot longer to kill these guys at first until you get more powerful and some practice with positioning and trust and gear. But take your time, you know, don't get too many. Try to even pull one at a time if you really have to. Don't be afraid to change target if one aggroes you that you weren't expecting. You're going to be stronger against anything with wings, so be a lot more careful with the tigers. Whenever Bully's up, don't be afraid to use that. Or you could always trick attack onto your lovely assistant. Or Montbro. I don't think he'd mind. I mean, I'm not doing an excellent job of tagging everything here with Treasure Hunter, but if you would set that up in your TP gain set as well, you only really need about Treasure Hunter 4 or 5. But you can run through this, and you can wind up getting, I'd say, about 10 plus. Yeah, 10 plus at least. The light will appear once you complete the condition for Omen for that floor. And then you move up, get a 10-minute time extension. And then from the second floor, you would pick Small Light and get a half-hour time extension and a lot more mobs to play with. I usually like to run a little close to him, pull one or two, and back up and start my fights. Oh, I don't think I aggroed him like I expected. There we go. But that's pretty much how you make money from here. The Swart Destrius and stack sell. It does take a couple days to charge up for a stack, but if you come in with Thief, it'll happen quicker than any other job. So that said, let's move on to the next thing. So for this next one, it involves some of the Seekers of Adeline content, and you do need to have the mission line complete if you're going to lead this. But if you're following, you just need access to the Outer Razganar zone. And then to get extra rewards, you would need to be pretty far in the Seekers line and have access to the Lethalia zone. But Vagary essentially has a weekly rotating Records of Eminence that gives you both of the crafting materials from each of the 5 notorious monsters that are available in the content. So that's 10 sellable items every week, in addition to if you win any of the lots on the other drops. So that's something that can make you a lot. And then also, once you have Lethalia access, you can trade in your boss kills, essentially, to get another crafting item, even though I would suggest against that until you have all the gear that you need. But once you have all the gear you need, it's nice to get sellables. So that said, let's switch over to Shuko, and I'm going to show you a couple of the Records of Eminence and the location of where you would trade in Lethalia and those things. But I'm going to put a couple cards up for the Vagary playlist now, so that if you want to see the content actually done, I have a video of each of the 3 zones, and we pop the 2 secret bosses and the elemental floor, and what methods that I use to do that. Now, it's one of my earlier videos, so I'm sure I'll probably make an updated video on a lot of stuff, but it does definitely go through our method that I still use to this day. So let's switch over to Shuko, and I can explain some more things. So I'm currently in Lethalia. A little bit to the west of the crystal, you'll see this Odyssean Passage. And this is where you would trade Befouled Waters to get entry to Vagary. And Befouled Waters are found from the Fomar and the Razganar zones. Then at that point, it converts it into an entry item. Then you would be able to enter with 3 other players, or 2 other players minimum. So on that note, you come up here to quests, go down to your Records of Eminence, under Content, and then scroll down to Vagary. Now, when you first get in here, you're not going to see all of these. You only see the first 3, I believe. And then, yeah, I believe it's the first 3. And then once you've killed the 3 main zone bosses, these additional... Well, this one will show up first. And this is one of the secret bosses, the first one that can appear. And once he gets taken out, the second secret boss condition will come out. And then once you've completed those and gotten those free crafting items from that, these weekly rotating ones will come out. And essentially, I have a Vagary event tomorrow, so I should set these now and be prepared for it. But when I run a Vagary event, I run all 3 zones and I pop the secret bosses. Now, to pop the secret bosses, you have to essentially trade in all of the 3 main floor bosses to get the first secret boss. And then the second secret boss, when you trade in his kill, or when you trade in the first secret boss's kill, you can get the pop for the second secret boss. And there is a way that you can start to chain these once you set it up. And I've done a couple runs, but it can be a little bit of a chore to set up initially. On that note, once you've killed them all, you would come in here to interact with this, and you could get one of any drop, other than the wings, the fancy wings, Death Spikes armor, or one of crafting item. And it's very useful. So I would suggest doing this every week if you have a Linkshell that's organized enough to do it. It is very mage-centric, though, and you would need a scholar with a little bit of talent, at least, to be able to clear this. But this is a really excellent way to make guild, and things from here sell from anywhere from 50k all the way up to like 800k for dark matter, at least on this server. And I post a lot of that stuff on the screen as we go. Now, there is one other Seekers of Adeline content that comes to mind that you can make some gil from too. And it's not as fast as this, but it is something to keep in mind. So the other content in the Adeline area that I would mention is Delve. And to do that one, you actually have to have access to the zones first off that you're trying to enter. And then the first 3 zones have to be completed before you can do the back 3. On that note, you actually go to Eastern Adeline, close to the Mog House. And I'm going to switch over to Shuka to show you how to create an entry item for that. So here I am in East Adeline. I'm really close to the library. So you could actually take the Scout Coalition warp, the Auction House warp, or even the Crystal warp here, and you'll be pretty close. And you're looking for the Anomaly Expert. The Anomaly Expert, one thing that always makes them unique and stick out to me is it's actually the mannequin. And it's kind of tough to tell, but it's actually, like, I know you have a wagging tail and everything, but it's actually the mannequin with her skin, which is kind of funny. But anyways, what you need to do is each zone has a Yggdrate, I'm guessing is how you call it, Yggdrate, and you would trade that to them to get the key item to enter Delve. Now, apparently I already have this one, so they're not going to convert it for me. I tend to try to keep a lot of Delve items on me. But like Vagary, you also need to have 3 people to enter this. So this is another one of those, you need some friends or you need to be a multi-boxer. But at the end of each delve is crafting items from all the boss monsters. And they're worth a pretty good chunk of change. So that note, let's go warp over to Western Adeline Inventors Coalition. And I can show you some of those. But when you have these converted items, you would go to the zones, and each one has a spot, which I can put up on the screen. And you'll be able to interact with that to go through a delve. And I'm also going to put a little playlist tag for you guys too, because I've done certain delves too that you can see. They're not that hard to do in the current age, to be honest. Definitely not at all. But yeah, so you go to the Inventors Coalition in Western Adeline. Run outside of it a little bit. You're looking for a little Taru over here. Now, yours may not be up because this is related to the Coalition levels. But honestly, at least on my server, I've never seen them not up in years. And then from here, you would ask about exchanges. Materials, at least if you're trying to do it for money. And you'll find all the Besavian Stinger, the Wing. Stinger's worth a pretty good chunk. Rockfin stuff in general is worth a lot. Gabrunth, everything but the meat is worth a good bunch. The Yggdrant Bowl is worth a lot. The Root isn't worth as much. Both Waxa items are worth good. The Setsuzi Claw and Pelt are good. The Ice Shard isn't worth a ton. And then that's for airgun weapons. But yeah, from here, you can also spend the Plasm that you get from doing Delve and get even more of the items that you get from Delve to sell. So between doing the Delve and getting the crafting items and other items which range from 200 to 800k, and then spending the Plasm here, Delve is also an excellent way to make Gil. Okay, so one of the hardest ways to make Gil in the game, but still one of the most worthwhile, and you can actually do it with 18 players, is Dynamis Divergence. Now, Dynamis Divergence is something that you're unable to do until you've completed all of the Rasphides of Vanadale missions, and completed Original Dynamis all the way up to the Dream Dynamis Tabnasia Zone. And once you've beaten the boss there and Rasphides, you can come to Juno and interact with a spot here that I'm going to show you on Shuko. And you'll actually have to trade 100 piece of an ancient currency from Original Dynamis and get a permanent key item timepiece that'll allow you to enter, I believe, about every 70 or so hours. We wind up entering twice a week. But on that note, let's switch over to Shuko and talk about some of the value items and the entry there. So here in Rulude, you're actually pretty close to the auction house, and you'll see a little glowy here next to Dugga. And this generates a little ghost goblin called Oryx. And he's a pain in the butt that you'll see in Dynamic Divergence. But you can actually wind up trading metals and stuff for things that drop from the zone in here. And you can also track your progress with different jobs and what zone progress they've made. And it'll also even tell you the word on the street, which is where the treasure bonus is, and that rotates weekly. But that being said, Dynamic Divergence actually has 3 tiers, and I'm not going to do a whole guide about how that's done and how to win it and everything today, but we're going to talk about the money aspect. So in the first tier, you wind up getting rusted cards, and you wind up being able to trade them in at 100 for a Beastman medal. And then once the first tier boss is taken out, the zone transitions to wave 2, and you wind up getting blackened cards, and those can be traded in by 100 for a Kindred medal. Same thing there. Once that boss is taken out and you progress into the third wave, and this is where things get incredibly difficult and need top tier coordination, you get old identification cards, and 100 of those are traded in for a demon medal. Now, there are other things that drop, such as in wave 3, the Swart crystals drop. In waves 1 and 2, Heroism crystals and Heroism agate drop. And then there are also shards for all of the jobs and void pieces for all the jobs. A couple of job energy crystals and rusted weapons as well, or moldy weapons to be specific. And all these have a lot of different values. But the main money that you're really going to see from here is from Swart crystals, Heroism crystals, and the cards converted into metals. Particularly the Demon's medals are very valuable. And stacks of Swart, stacks of Heroism crystals. But you can't enter the zone, much like everything else we're talking about in today's video, with at least, unless you have 3 members. So group content or multi-boxer content. And it is very difficult to get all the way through it. It usually involves a very coordinated team. But that being said, a very talented Black Mage or Corsair can get a lot of damage done during the first wave and even some of the second wave. And occasionally there are bonuses called the Statue Crusher bonus, which give direct drops to everybody in the party for every statue killed. And you can just run through the whole zone and just get so much items for free practically. The other bonus is Statue Crusher Plus, which it winds up making it so you can even get direct medals or job shards per statue kill. These don't happen all the time, but there's something to keep an eye out for, and a great way for everybody to make gil. So that essentially covers all the areas that I would know that you can grind out to generate gil, or to do things that wind up finding rare items that other players would give you their gil for. Now, I mean, there's a couple of other things that you can wind up doing, like what I would call like new content first grabs or something, where something comes out, it's brand new, everybody's excited about it, and they're willing to usually pay a lot more than the item winds up being worth. So I usually tell people, if something rare drops and it's not something that you're super interested in, sell it right away, because chances are that item will settle down in price later, or different server auction house changes. If you're somebody who's willing to pay for a server transfer and something on your server is way more expensive or cheaper than another server, there can be ways to capitalize on that. But I wouldn't encourage taking things that far, but I am aware that those strategies exist. Usually, for anything you would want in the game, any of the methods I've demonstrated in these 3 videos would be enough. And the cards that I put up for the group content. Now keep in mind that the group method that I'm showing you does involve a lot more, but it's a fun way to make money with your friends, and everybody gets a little bit. And yeah, I would definitely encourage going about those methods, because it keeps the game fresh and challenging. And you never know what the next day will bring as you make new friends and you wind up coming up with new techniques to make more money. And honestly, a lot of these methods that I've learned are by the friends that I've made throughout time. So you never know what new methods may come out. On that note, thank you so much, everybody, for watching. This is going to conclude the guild guide portion. And I can't plan to keep many more guides coming. But on that note, thank you very much, everybody, and I'll see you next time.